Have you ever heard the phrase, who do you think you are? Maybe it even came from your own head. Today we're going to talk about imposter syndrome, what it is, how to tackle it, how to overcome it. If this is your first time joining me, my name is Tara Walsh. I'm a business coach for beauty business owners and imposter syndrome. So recently I was in Colombia, Medellin, Colombia, and speaking at a conference of beauty professionals where I was talking about business. And this idea of imposter syndrome came up for me because I even still occasionally have this moment where I'm like, who am I to be going to a country where I don't necessarily speak the language? I mean, I speak poquito español. I know I butchered it, but I went to this place thinking, okay, how is what I know and what I teach and what I've been doing for the last few years going to translate across multiple different cultures? There was a translator who was translating what I was saying into Spanish in their ears. So the delay and the time gap left a lot of kind of insecurities to pop up of like, did they not get it? Did I not explain it well enough? It was probably a 20 to 30 second delay between when I said something and they heard what I just said. So it kind of left me going back and forth between what my external environment was telling me, which was a 30-second delay, so things weren't connecting necessarily. That's what my brain told me, versus what I know to be true, that I am an expert in business and I know how to teach business, and that does translate across all languages. It's just maybe different words, but that's the challenge for me, that I needed to take what I normally do in English and have it translate across multiple different languages. So where does imposter syndrome show up in your life? If you're not familiar with what imposter syndrome is, more or less it is a little tiny voice in your head that says you're not good enough, or who are you to be doing this, or you think you're so cool, so smart, or nobody's going to listen to you, or you're not licensed enough, you're not certified enough, you're not qualified enough. All of those voices, all of that doubt of here's a big dream you have, but you're not going to get there because you don't have X, Y, and Z. That's basically imposter syndrome, where you're afraid that somebody's going to find out that you're not as savvy, knowledgeable, educated, expert as you claim to be or you say you are. Very, very common, especially when you set big dreams. Now, a lot of people, to avoid imposter syndrome or don't like the discomfort that comes with these thoughts and these feelings of imposter syndrome, just don't reach for big dreams. In fact, they don't even allow themselves to dream. So the way that this works in my brain after facing imposter syndrome and building out essentially a business coaching business, I'm not certified in anybody's methodology of business coaching. It was a series of experiences, education, my own learning that I started sharing with others that then led me to the idea that maybe there's something that I could do on a bigger scale to help more people. In fact, when I first started the Lashpreneur, my goal was not just to impact lash artists, it was to impact an industry. Talk about some imposter syndrome coming up, like who do you think you are to impact in industry? You're just Tara, you're just a lash artist, you're just fill in the blank. And what my business coach, when I eventually got to the point of hiring one, said to me was, you're either going to play in your business not to lose, or you can choose to play to win. And that really resonated with me because so much of what I had been doing up to that point was playing small, was playing within my comfort zone. I could help a few people, but if I put it out there or I grow a big following or, I spend a lot of money on ads to get a lot of attention, what if somebody points something out in me that's like, who are you or why are you doing this? And so this whole concept of playing not to lose versus playing to win really helped pivot to me imposter syndrome, because I got to make a choice in whether I was playing not to lose, which seems like a small game, which seems like a safe conservative, stay in your little bubble, don't ruffle too many feathers, be compliant, make everybody like you, be your people pleaser. Or do I want to play to win to have a bigger impact in women's lives, which really is the motivating drive for me. How many women's lives can I impact and help with what knowledge I've gained thus far in my life? And when I can get present to coming from a place of service, as opposed to maybe even selfishness, that it's got to be all about me, that I'm the one that they have to learn from, that people need to credit me. This often shows up for you guys if somebody else steals your photos and you're like, they didn't credit my work and and it's all about you rather than you focusing on who you can help and who you can serve. Oftentimes when my students inside the Lashpreneur Society are thinking about the next step in their business, so they've gotten to fully booked and they're thinking about maybe I'll be an educator or maybe even I'll bring on a team, but these doubts tend to come up, especially when it comes to being an educator, because most educators are kind of a personal brand, if you will. It is, that particular person's education style that they're trying to promote. So it is a lot of promoting, it's like self-promotion essentially of like, I really help students and here's how I help students. And how I coach to that I wanted to share with you guys today, if you struggle with imposter syndrome or if you have some big goals or big dreams, but you're just like, I'm not qualified enough or I'm not certified enough or I'm not educated enough, is to shift the focus from you onto who you can serve. Who can you help? Maybe you can't help everyone. In fact, you shouldn't try to help everyone. You should try to focus on helping one person. And in your marketing and in your promotion and when you're talking about your courses, talk about one person's transformation. Talk about how what you taught made a difference in someone else's life. Focus on who you can serve, not all of the other noise that's going to be going on as you step into this bigger game that you want to play. The beautiful thing about education, when you go from being appointment-based and serving clients in a physical location to becoming an educator, is that it has this ripple effect. So yes, you may be teaching a student one-on-one, but that student is then going to hopefully have multiple clients that she's going to go out and make feel beautiful. Right? So what she learned from you, the skill set she learned from you, is actually impacting multiple women in your area or in her area to feel more confident and beautiful. And when you think about that as playing to win, how many more lives can I impact? Then we can really start to position our education, our marketing, our new business as an educator to the skill set that a woman can have that can impact other women. And you see the ripple effect of what you started that has this ripple effect. Now, this is where the imposter syndrome might sneak in of like, oh, but I'm just so-and-so, right? Like I've never been told that I can have a global impact or even an impact on hundreds of women, right? And it feels too overwhelming, right? That's when we still focus in on that one person we can help. So if you're contemplating at any point ever becoming an educator, I say educator mostly because when you build out a team, it's a little bit different because it's less about you and it's more about the brand. But when you want to become an educator, you should want to have an impact on somebody else's life. You are offering someone basically a skill set to go make more money. There's a lot of value to that. So don't undervalue yourself because you are not the most educated person in the world compared to whoever you follow on Instagram. We want to make sure that when you are showing up for that one person that you can help, that you're serving them to the best of your ability, not the best of whoever ability you follow. There are plenty of larger brands with larger educators, but guess what? We're all just making it up. Every single one of us. There is no standard. The standards that lash artists or our industry follows were made up by somebody who was willing to play a big enough game to state their opinion, and that their opinion is fact. How I teach people to run a business is, in my opinion, the best way to run a business, but it is not the only way to run a business. And there are plenty of other ways that go against my methodology that probably work, that do work, right? But me standing up and saying, this is the best way to run a business is because it is how I have seen it work for multiple people across multiple different cities, states, experiences, education, right? And it creates a framework that's easy to follow. But that doesn't mean that what somebody else teaches about business can't also impact a woman's life to make her more successful. Just because I'm successful in one area does not mean that there's less success for other people. Same thing for you. If you see somebody who's killing it as an educator in even on Instagram, right? I think that's another thing too, is we look at, it's a saturated market. There's so many educators. Everybody's an educator. What you have to offer and what you have to bring to the table does not exist yet. If you look at what other educators are doing, they have many different influences that have created their specific methodology of how they teach. Even if you and your, let's say, competitor took the exact same certification courses, the exact same training, followed the exact same people, the way that that knowledge comes into your head and gets blended together based on your life, your experiences, your interpretation will come out differently because you are all unique. So to say that just because there's somebody else who teaches the same thing I teach means that there's less success for me is playing not to lose and is playing small and will keep you staying in your tiny little bubble. And the women that you can actually help, and men, but the women that you can actually help with your knowledge and the way that you interpret information and the way that you teach information, they're not able to get out of their pain point because you're so worried about being judged. That's being selfish. If I'm going to give you some tough love today, you worrying about imposter syndrome, worrying about some troll on the internet who's never going to be a customer of yours, and making you feel like you're not good enough, you're actually hurting somebody else that you could help because they're staying in a pain point and a struggle, and their life can't move forward until you step up into what you are called to do and your purpose of helping someone else. So get over yourself. It's not about you. That's the pivotal point that turns imposter syndrome into a win for you that helps you to move forward. When you stop making it about you and you having to get the validation and the followers and the money and the accolades and the celebrity and the influencer status, it's not about you. Just because your name is on it, it's really about who you help and who you can serve. So get over yourself, put your ego aside, and start serving. Start helping. Anytime that you worry about not being good enough, take the focus off of you and put it on, you know what, I'm good enough to help one person today. What's the one person I can help? Today, for me, that was getting on Instagram and doing a live. And look, I've already helped some people. Look, Natalie says, that's why you're the best coach ever. I love tough love. Olga, what's up? I got Chuchi Lash in here. Girl, I know we've had conversations, right? Needed to hear this today from Just Angel. Show up just for one person. Stop making it about you. Stop making it about your lack, your scarcity, your fears, your own ego, and make it about the people that you can serve, because that is really what creates the impact. When you focus on somebody else's pain that you can help, even in just a little way, you don't have to solve all their problems, just help them solve one. And today my goal was helping you guys believe enough in yourselves to not play to just not lose, but to play to win. So I want to hear from you. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, I want to know what's one way that you can get out of your ego and start focusing on serving others. Because yes, this industry has been around a long time, not as long as hair or skin or like that, but there's a lot of people that are educators, but they're not like you. And if you try to be a copy and paste version of somebody else, you're going to be a pretty piss poor version of you. So step up and do something different. Piss some people off. There was a lot of people I pissed off when I first started. I probably still piss people off. They're not in my radar anymore. But I came along, and I still do this today, where I hear what other people are teaching and I say the opposite because I don't believe that to be very helpful in serving the people that I know I can serve, right? Have an opinion. Stand for something. Stop trying to copy and paste what everybody else is doing and whatever you're seeing on Instagram. Just because they have a pretty feed and like really professionally done photos also makes them feel untouchable to an audience that most of the like new lash artists tend to be really insecure, right? And so if you can give them a little tidbit, even though you don't have the perfectly curated feed, even though you don't look like, you know, the stereotypical like sorority girl, you know, if that's who your competitor is, good. Because there's plenty of women out there who don't align with that, but that's all they're seeing out there because that brand, that company, that educator is putting themselves out there. But you need to show up just the way you are. You don't have to wait for some imaginary lash god to come in and deem you lash educator. You may now start to pursue greatness, but never a moment before that. If you're waiting for that sign, this is it. This is it. Pursue something better. Pursue something greater. Step up, show up, and serve. Because there are women, and you will see it. I promise you, when you start to show up, when you start to be authentically yourself, share the information that you know can help people, you will start to get that external validation that you are helping people. But it doesn't happen first. You don't get the external validation first, and then you show up. You show up first, scared, lack of confidence, feeling like an imposter, but you do it anyways. And then you will start to gain the confidence that you actually can and are helping people. It's interesting to me because so much of what I went through last year, if you're not aware, I shut down my business last year. Had a little bit of a mental health crisis. It was in the video of me shutting my business down, going live saying, look, I'm done, that I got hundreds of messages of people that I hadn't talked to in a long time, didn't even know I impacted. I got that external validation when I felt like so much of what I was doing was failing and wasn't working and was too hard. And it was so interesting. And I still go back to that video and read the comments because, especially as an online educator, I'm talking to myself right now. Like, I see comments coming through, but more or less I'm alone talking to a device. And so it's especially during the pandemic when there aren't live events and getting that people saying like, oh my God, thank you. It was overwhelming to have all of that validation of how much I had helped people all from one video when I was walking away from it. And that honestly shifted so much of what I was facing, that it was my job at that point, because I no longer had a business, to get better so that I could create more impact. And that is still what I'm living off of over a year later after shutting the business down, is I know I'm creating impact. And business is tough, guys. Like, it's still tough for me. I still have my challenges. I still have issues with team. I still have issues with scaling and growing. New level, new devil. As you grow and as you scale, you will still continue to face struggles. They get easier to deal with and you kind of challenge yourself and you grow and evolve. But when you step up to play a bigger game, you can help a lot more people. And I think for the most part, I would venture to say 90% of us that get into the beauty industry, it's because we want to help women, right? Or we want to help people feel better about themselves, or we've had some amazing transformational experience by the services that we've received that we love making people feel much better about themselves by what we can impact on the outside. So the more impact that you can create because you're stepping up, you're showing up, do it. For those of you that don't want to get into education, but you want to show up, but you're, afraid to put yourself out there because your work isn't good enough, there's somebody that's going to look at your work and go, she's freaking amazing. I can't wait to get in with her. How do I get in with her? How do I book with her? Because they're not looking at the same 40, 50, 60 educators that you follow on social media. They don't see that. What they see is the transformation that you did on your mom, who went from, an 8.5 to a 9.5, right? Shout out to moms. But that's what you can do in your business, is just one small step of how can I get my one person that I can help today? How can I show up for her? A lot of people are struggling to show up for Reels. Reels is the hottest, most prioritized piece of content on social media. Same with TikTok, right? It's the same type of short form content. How can you test out, even if you're embarrassed, even if it flops? Here's the thing. If your content sucks, nobody's going to see it. So you got nothing to lose, right? So why not test it out? Why not utilize Reels to show up for your business? Because it's the easiest thing that you can do to get in front of more people. And even, again, it's a numbers game. So if you only have 40 followers right now, but your reel can get to 100 or 200 people because, again, the algorithm is prioritizing Reels, then that might be one or two other people that really are looking for you that haven't been able to find you, but now you created a piece of content that gets more reach, and now they've seen you and they relate to you. We just had a student in our society yesterday have a pretty cool moment. She is a solo lash artist. She has been a member of the society for about 2 years, maybe a little bit less. And she was out having dinner at a restaurant, and a stranger came up to her and asked her what she did for a living. And she said, I own a beauty business. And she listed off the services. She's like, I follow you. I love your work. I can't wait to book with you. She had like this little mini influencer moment where, because she's been showing up in her business, and trust me, she wasn't always comfortable. She may still have her moments of doubt, but she got recognized out in the wild by somebody who follows her and really admired her work. And that was such a validating thing for her, because most of you guys probably won't build a big enough following that when you're out in public, unless you're in a small town, that people would recognize you. And how amazing is it to get that validation that when you show up, people start to recognize you and they start to equate you with great work, great service, quality. And all of that is because you show up first. You don't wait for that to happen first. So to sum up, imposter syndrome, your brain is going to try and keep you safe. So it's going to tell you things that try to keep you safe. Putting yourself out there in ways that you're not comfortable with means that there's a lot of unknown, and the brain doesn't like the unknown because it's trying to keep you safe, and the known is safe, even if the known is uncomfortable. There is this this story about a man walking past this house, and on the house is an old man and a dog sitting on a porch, and the dog is whimpering and whining, and the guy walking by is like, dude, what's wrong with your dog? Is your dog okay? And the old man goes, yeah, he's sitting on a nail. And the guy's like, dude, why? Help him. He's sitting on a nail. He's like, I've tried, but it's too painful to get up, right? Because the dog is sitting in the pain, but he's so afraid that it's going to hurt more if he gets up, when really that's what's going to relieve the pain. How many of you are sitting on a nail when if you just got up, might hurt a little bit more for a second, but it's temporary, and then you'll be out of pain? You're focusing so much on how this thing that stepping up, showing up for your business, putting yourself out there more, marketing yourself, believing in yourself, helping others is the dream, but you're so afraid of what's it's gonna need to take from you to get from point A to point B. But I can promise you, you are equipped enough to handle the first few steps, and then you just do a few steps more. So commit to yourself that you're going to play to win versus playing not to lose. If you have any questions about being an educator or even marketing your business, or how can you show up more, or what that looks like to you, send me a DM. I love having these conversations in DMs. That's where we can connect. That's where I can help you with whatever knowledge is in my head that might be of service to you. So thank you so much for joining me today, guys. Have a good one.